Do you want to perform better in space combat, hit your opponents better and simply see more? Or learn about the target acquisition in Star Citizen 324? Then you are in the right place. Because in this follow-up guide for the current 324 to the best settings for Star Citizen, we show you how you can optimize your settings. And this gives you a much better overview of space combat. You hit better and have all the information to survive difficult battles. And also for rather unexperienced pilots, there is a lot that can help you. In addition, we take a deeper look at the various target acquisition options, the selection of individual components, and of course the pinning of targets and also the automatic target acquisition. In the standard, Star Citizen offers everything to survive in space combat. But there are some options here to make this experience much easier and to improve the overview. And even if some of the new functions have already come into play with 323, these are finally more major with the 324. So we start by setting up a one-click combat mode, so activating all important functions and properties with the press of a button to be able to survive in combat. The biggest difference are the three most important settings can be found under the Options, Key Bindings and here under Advanced. And here, on the Vehicle Weapons tab, you will find the following settings, which you can either put on your own key or a toggle, so with which you can switch off and on. We use the toggle function here, and that is on a key either on your keyboard, your mouse or your joystick. We start with the pip fading toggle. This means that your pip does not automatically fade out as long as you do not have an active target or you do not fight actively. The second function is the pip precision lines toggle. This option activates additional help lines, which shows you the targeted ship in its current flight or direction of rotation, as well as significantly increases your target markings. And with the gunnery UI magnification toggle, we activate the third function. With this, you zoom in your pips again, so to speak. This makes your target markings much larger, and even in the eagerness to fight with several opponents, you always have the overview here. And after we have put all three functions on one key, they are all switchable with this one key press. And so we see the biggest difference here, especially visually. But also, in addition, the enlarged target displays help you to hit your target much better, as you no longer have to hit a tiny circle to hit your target safely. But let's take a closer look at it and come to further settings, which we also put on the same key. An alternative setting is the pip combination type toggle option. This is especially useful when you play with ships with different types of weapons and, above all, fire speeds, because you get additional pips for each weapon type here. For example, you use different weapons, some with smaller bullets or for fast repeaters. But this can get confusing relatively quickly, and in most cases the option is not really worth it. So it remains a matter of taste whether you want to activate these additional functions. For experienced citizens who play with different weapon categories, this can be really helpful. A more important function is the switching of your lead or lag pip. Use a new key here, because you should be able to switch this function separately. You can also find this under weapons. By switching the lead or lag pip, you change the UI display. So the lead pip means that there is a forecast of your opponent's flight path, where he will be probably fly next. And this forecast is resulting in an aiming point. And if you fire on this point, you hit your opponent if he keeps track on the flight path. Alternatively, a lag pip offers the opposite in the end. The flight path is also calculated here, but the UI is not switched in front of your opponent, but on your opponent itself. That means you have the display on the opponent's ships and not as an aiming point forward. So choose the most suitable variant for you. In principle, we recommend the standard activated leap. But here too, the size of your opponent plays a role. If you fight against smaller fighters or snub fighters, and here you apply the recommended settings with the enlarged UI, a lag pip can be disturbing because you sometimes cover the target completely with it. Another optional setting, also in the vehicles and the weapons area, is the different fire mode, which you can find on the cycle fire mode, staggered or combined. With this function, you can choose whether you fire your weapons at the same time all at once or one after the other in a short order. This function is especially recommended for larger weapons or cannons because it offers a permanent fire area and does not fire several bullets at the same time with one shot. But here too, we have advantages and disadvantages. In combined mode, when all your bullets are fired at the same time, you naturally have the highest damage possible when all these bullets hit. And in staggered mode, you can do a lot more, and you do not have the risk that all bullets miss at the same time. And for energy weapons, especially in the area of cannons, the staggered mode is recommended, because your energy weapons are not in permanent fire at the same time, but have a little more time to regenerate. This can improve your energy budget a bit. Here we recommend using the staggered mode with larger weapon hardpoints and the more cannons you use. If you are a safe shooter and know what your next shot will definitely hit, you can switch to combined mode. With the next setting, also in the weapons area, we find the possibility under manual coverage distance to adjust our weapons distance settings. For this, you can place an axis, for example, on a joystick or a gamepad. But this setting only has an effect if you have not selected a target active. Because if you have an active target, this setting is ignored and your weapons are automatically set to the distance on your target. Therefore, this is especially suitable in the field of ground combat, if you want to hit a ground target up close, for example. But let's get to an important basic setting. On the flight and movement, you will find the decoupled mode. On here again, a toggle function we use. And we put this switch function back on the same button as our other combat settings. Because the decoupled mode, so the flight mode that is not supported by a flight computer, is recommended especially in combat. And the same applies for the toggle for the G-force safety. So in the decoupled mode, our thrust is not automatically balanced, so our speed, which we have given in any direction, will be retained until we give a corresponding counter thrust. And this gives you a much more unpredictable flight path and will be hit less in combat. And with the G-Safe function, we have no limitation as far as the G-force is concerned, but we find further settings for a G-Safe directly under the game settings. Basically, we recommend turning on the G-Safe, disabling when boosting, because this deactivates the G-Safe automatically when you boost, regardless of whether you are in combat mode or not. And in addition, we deactivate the proximity assist. And a little further down, we permanently activate the velocity indicator, because it then permanently shows us in which direction we are moving. But what is the difference? With the permanently activated velocity indicator, we have small triangles, which we get displayed there in which direction our ship is flying. If the arrows point inwards, we fly forward. If the arrows point outwards, we fly backwards. So if we change the thrust, especially in decoupled mode, we always have an overview of where we are flying, regardless of where our nose is shown. This also allows us to evade obstacles with small thrust movements. In coupled mode, our ship would try to stabilize regularly. And thanks to the deactivated G-Safe mode, we always have the option to continue to thrust or evade even with increased G-forces. And if you are just before a red or blackout, simply give a short thrust in the other direction and you are able to act again. And spoiler, there is no red out or blackout in the outside view. So press F4. But let's go to some basic settings. Under the game settings, you can turn on the cinematic cameras if necessary, otherwise deactivate them. We also deactivate vibration and camera spring movement, because this makes the cockpit much more precise. For more information about your opponents or teammates, let's go further down to the vehicle targeting area and activate Show Heading, Show Distance and Show Trade. This gives you all information about your target or your opponent, so the direction of his flight. In addition, we deactivate the Enable Auto Zoom on Lock Target under Targeting and basically all options with a look ahead. Basically, these settings prevent your character from automatically tracking your target, no matter in which direction you are flying. Because this can quickly seem annoying. The G-forces are also annoying. We can also deactivate the G-force settings, head and movement, head bob and afterburner zoom, as well as the global camera shake. And a little further down, we activate the option emissions HUD display signature values. This not only allows us to see how well our target can be seen or switched on, but we also get direct data. But now we come to the next area, namely the target selection, the different target modes and the selection of different sub-targets, so individual components or weapon areas of your opponent. Because with this you have the possibility to switch on and attack special areas of your opponent, so for example deactivate the engines or to switch off individual weapons. This makes it easier to grab a little more loot later or to find the ship in an exhausted state. For this we go to the basic settings under vehicles and target cycling. So the target switching on in the standard with the key T and especially for the sub-target selection the key R. If you now activate the target switching on, so you look at a target and press the key T, you switch on this target. If you now press the key R on a switch on target, you switch on different sub-targets. But only in this area where you all look exactly. For example, if you look at a weapon and press the key R, this weapon is selected as a target. And this not only works in normal mode, but also in the precision targeting mode, the second target mode which you can activate. We recommend to set this to your secondary fire button. In this special target mode, for example, you zoom in on your target clearly and can thus select individual targets in more detail. But in this mode, your fire speed is noticeably reduced compared to a normal target mode. Also, in this mode, you will not only find an additional pip, so a fire stop indication. This mode is especially useful for gun turrets. But no matter in which mode you are, you can switch on and off different components and weapons with the key R and thus attack individual areas of a ship. If, for example, you are traveling with small light fighters and have a larger target as an opponent, it can make sense not to try to completely destroy this ship with your little firepower. Much more it makes sense to weaken the ship by switching off the weapons one after the other. Because even the largest ship cannot fire at you without weapons. But of course, you can also target drives or other components and thus provide significantly support even if you are traveling with a smaller ship. And of course, the target pre-fire works not only up close, but also at greater distances. But it can be the case that you have to get closer to unknown targets first to then select them and scan them. But in addition to the standard selection of targets with the T key or the switching through sub-targets with the R key, you can also assign pins, so for hostile or friendly targets. For this, you do not have to select the target actively. You can also switch through targets that you have not marked with the R key or T key and select 1, 2, 3 and assigning corresponding pins. And with Alt and 1, 2, 3 allows you to pin targets even without switching them on active, so the opponent does not notice that he already has a pin on his head. And if you are in a group, your group members will also see these pins. But especially when fighting with several targets, here you have various additional target options. For example, you can activate or deactivate the automatic target mode by holding the T key. The visual difference is that the 4 triangles around your target point inwards in the automatic target mode and outwards in the manual target mode, so it presents a square. This way you can quickly see whether a target has been selected automatically or whether you have selected it yourself analogously. But the automatic target mode does not work completely flawlessly yet. Some targets are simply not switched on again or it's switched back to the analog target mode. Another worthwhile option is the standard button 5. With this you switch on the next enemy that attacks you. And this works not only for enemy ships but also for flying missiles to you. But it can be in a zeal of the battle that other enemies are closer than a flying missile and you do not switch them on. But basically, it is possible to switch on and shoot down flying missiles so. As a final summary, we have switched on a combat mode. With the press of a button, we switch on all combat relevant functions and aids. We switch to decoupled mode, deactivate G-Save, increase your target output by enlarging and expanding the aid lines and thus have more options to hit easier. And after a one battle, we can simply press the same button again and all these settings go back to the standard. That means we have more overview, more immersion and of course our flight aids with the coupled mode. And of course, the settings are not only necessary or helpful in combat. Analog, these settings can be used for racing or other maneuvers where the corresponding performance is required. And if you have any more tips and tricks, please let me know in the Discord, our daily Twitch live streams, or as a comment in the video. I say goodbye, until next time. See you soon and of course, see you in the verse. And as always, thanks for watching.